Listen, as hard as it might be for myself or anyone who sees your videos to believe a trans child wouldn't feel safe outing themselves to you, there is a bigger conversation to be had here. That's regarding his talking point, which I hear not just from people on the right, but also occasionally moderates or even some left leaning people who will say something to the effect of, it does feel like there's more trans and non binary kids than there used to be, so maybe they are kind of being influenced. So I'm here to dispel the fact that there are more of them. I don't believe there are, and I think a good example of what's actually happening would be something I like to call the left-handed agenda. You see, at the turn of the century and going backward, the amount of left-handed people remained relatively the same, and there were not a lot of them. It grew a little bit between 1900 to 1920, but then as you can see in 1920, heading into the 40s, there was a sharp spike upward of left-handed people. It continued to rise until it finally sort of leveled off in the 1980s. So what happened? Why were so many more people suddenly becoming left-handed? It must have been the left-handed agenda. Or it could be that leading up to the 1920s, being left-handed was discouraged. It was frowned upon, especially by educators. I have an uncle who landed somewhere in the middle here, and he said when he was in school, as a left-handed person, when his teacher would catch him writing with his left hand, she would rack his knuckles with a ruler until he wrote with his right. But around the 1920s is when people started saying, what if it's not bad to be left-handed? What if we didn't force people to be right-handed? Throughout time, they figured out things like, what if they're actually using a different part of their brain and that's why their hand works that way? What if it's perfectly fine? And this stigma around being left-handed was lifted. And more teachers stopped making kids be right-handed that were naturally left-handed. And as a result, the amount of left-handed people increased. Or more accurately, a bunch of people who were left-handed were finally allowed to just be left-handed. In other words, they were free to be who they are, and that's what's happening here. As our knowledge and understanding grows, people are feeling safer about expressing who they truly are. Gender is a social construct. Even religious beliefs like Christianity teaches that our body is just a vessel, that what makes us us is the being on the inside. And you have people who say, hey, I know what I'm presenting outwardly, but who I am on the inside is this. And they're feeling that they can actually express that and live that truth. It's not that there are more of them, it's just that they're finally actually able to be who they are.